Hello, and thank you for tuning in to Starting Small. Today, I'm joined by Renee Rouleau of her self-named brand, Renee Rouleau. So, Renee, thank you so much for joining me today.
Hey, Cameron, thanks for having me.
Yeah, of course. So, I'd like to start out with your upbringing. Where did you grow up, and what would you say your childhood was like?
So from kindergarten to the my senior year, I was in seven different schools. So
Mm,
naturally, people go, "Oh, was it a military family?" No, my dad was in retail. He was like the number 13 employee of Target stores.
wow,
And yeah, way back in the day. And his claim to fame, what he retired from, was he was the CEO of Michael's Arts and Crafts and took them from 400 stores to 1,300 stores.
that's huge.
So yeah, so my dad was in retail. We moved every 2 years for different jobs as he was climbing the ladder to success.
Incredible. So, yeah, growing up at a young age, I'm sure a lot of that had inspiration on your own journey. What were some of your interests growing up? If was that skincare or entrepreneurship, athletics? What did that look like?
Two things, which is kind of what I'm doing now, which is beauty, and I loved making money.
Yeah, for
So
sure.
I was apparently I didn't know this. I went to a high school reunion, and apparently I was the first girl to wear makeup in the fifth grade. I was living outside of Boston at this time, so I didn't find that out till years later. And then apparently during like junior high, they said, "Oh yeah, you used to bring your makeup to the sleepovers and always do everyone's makeup." So I was like, "Oh, okay." Now my grandmother, I also grew up in the Midwest, Minnesota and Wisconsin, but my grandmother on my mom's side was a hairstylist, and she owned a hair salon. So I grew up kind of in that environment. And
Yeah,
then the making money part, I was always hustling. So whether it's lemonade stands in high school, I mean, junior high, I babysat like crazy. And then in high school, I had a side business being a photographer, taking all the senior yearbook photos. And I just
awesome.
loved the idea of working hard and getting a paycheck for it.
I love that. Where would you say you got a lot of that inspiration from? Was that self-development? Your parents, did they have a lot of inspiration on kind of those pursuits? Where did that come from?
I think I just come from a really hardworking family,
Yeah,
just very hardworking. My dad's from the Midwest, and kind of it's a Midwest mentality. People are just pretty simple, no nonsense. You
yeah.
work hard, and as my grandmother used to always say, if you can't pay cash for it, you can't afford to have it. So I just
Mhm,
grew up in this childhood where we were very tight with money, but responsible with money, and you just worked hard.
definitely. So I saw you ended up going to then aesthetic school throughout your journey. So what led you to and then actually pursue that following high school?
Yeah, so I knew that college was not my path, even though I was living outside of Boston, where everybody's going to MIT and Harvard. But
Yep.
regular traditional school I was not wired for. I couldn't sit still very well. And so the $1 million question, what do you want to be when you grow up? They say find something you're passionate about and find a way to make money doing it. And so I was always like, I had acne growing up, and I was always like picking at my skin, and like, my brother's always having breakout on his back. And I'd be like, "Oh, hold still, let me get that." And so when I found out there was a profession that I could get paid to, pick at people's skin, I was like, "You mean I love picking at people's skin and you're going to pay me for it?" I'm like, "Sign me up. That's my career."
I love it. So what I think is incredible, I saw on some of your resume and your journey is at 21, you opened up your own skincare spa. Was this directly
Yeah.
following school or was there a period here? What did that look like?
Yeah, so right out of high school, I went to school to become an esthetician. I worked at a full service salon outside of Boston, and I had a coworker who was an esthetician, and she was my mentor.
Hmm.
And so I started working there from 19 to 21, and she was 13 years older than me. She had two young children. She always wanted to open up her own business, but because she had kids, she didn't want to do it alone. Her and
Hmm.
I got along really well, and she saw something in me and said, "Want to be my business partner?" So when you're 21, you're fearless. Sure, why not?
Yeah.
And so from age 21 to 26, we had a skincare salon in a small town outside of Boston. And I just loved it. I was, really good at sales, marketing, operations, not so much the finance side of it, but
Mhm.
and I like to work, and I've been a workaholic since I've just been really young, and I loved working, and I loved entrepreneurship and being able to call the shots.
I love that. So I'm out of curiosity, that skincare spa then for the two of you, did that end up scaling with a larger team? What did that growth look like? You said you were there for an extended period.
Yeah, we had it for 5 years. So this is 1991 to 1996. So I want to say we did like maybe like 1.5 million. So, I mean, it was
That's awesome.
small. But I was just a kid and I was
Yeah.
happy and I had no overhead because I was single and young and just, didn't have a house, just an apartment. But yeah. And so then after 5 years, I really wanted to get out of Boston. It was, I heard Texas, Dallas was starting to really come alive. And I just resonated more with hardworking people. And I don't know, I wanted to change in my personal life. And
Mhm.
so business was great, but something about Texas, drew me in. And so I moved all by myself to Dallas in 1996 when I was 26, started Renee Rouleau as a skincare spa. So hiring estheticians, giving facials,
Mhm.
started to launch a product line,
Mm.
and we launched e-commerce in 1999.
Wow.
So we've been selling online since 99. So if you go back to that website, Wayback Machine, have you ever heard of that website?
I have not. I was born in
So,
99.
oh my God. So anyway, so there's a website that's still out there now, but it's called Wayback Machine, and
Okay.
it does screen grabs and shows like charts of when, people started websites. And so it shows different screen grabs of our site all through the years. It is so funny.
Oh, that's so cool.
And then
Wow.
yeah, started writing blog content, education content, and pushing out content to long before Google. And so we were getting all this organic search long before. I always like to say, like, when I was selling online and doing content marketing, like, nobody was up there. I was like,
Yeah.
I had the whole place to myself. And obviously, fast forward, to today, it's a little more crowded up there in the old interweb space there.
Definitely. That's so incredible. I'm curious at this point, launching those products, what did you look for formulating? What did that R&D process look like? Were you experienced yourself with mixing? What was that like?
So back then, so the problem back then, and it's totally different now with all the rise of indie brands now, but back
Yeah.
then, the people who were having skincare lines were the big brands, the Estee Lauders and the L'Oreals, and they were selling to millions of people. So
Yeah.
to create a product line and have a lab work with you where you can only order 200 of something, like, nobody would do that back then. And my
Yeah.
my philosophy about skin is that there's 9 skin types, and
Mm.
I wanted a skincare routine for each of the 9 skin types. So I wasn't launching a line that just had 8 SKUs. I was launching a
Mm.
line that was going to have 40 SKUs, right? And
Yeah.
so, and some skin types are more popular than the others. And so I had to really seek out labs that were willing to take a chance on me and do small minimums, because they're normally like, oh, it's 10,000 per product. And I'm like, oh, I need, a baker's dozen.
Yeah.
So anyway, so that was challenging to find labs. So part in the early days, we had to do some white label,
Mm.
private label, where they already have the formula and then they'll package it for you. You can make some tweaks to the formula.
Yeah.
So in the early days, I had to start out substituting some products with that until I could then do my own custom formulas, which took many years. But now we do all custom formulations. Even though I didn't go to college, I have taken several cosmetic chemistry courses at
Mm.
UCLA. So I'm a really good product formulator, and I kind of know all the nuances that go into product development, which is super fun.
Yeah, that's incredible. Kind of bouncing back from what you mentioned with being one of the first on the web, I'm curious, where did you get some of that experience from? Did you have a consultant and eventually launching these products that you white labeled? What did that process look like, actually going live on e-commerce?
Right. So my brother was a web developer. He had a full-time job,
Okay.
and we talked and we knew that, like, selling online was going to be a thing. And so he built me, a custom built website, because he had done that for the company he was with. And But everything was all custom back then. I mean, there wasn't a Shopify, it's a plug and play. And so,
Yeah.
and then I remember like the server, for example. So we tapped into a server of my brother's friend, and it was in the closet at my brother's friend's house, and he had a toddler, and every now and again the toddler would go play in the closet and unplug the server, and my website would go down. So then
Oh,
I'd have to
wow.
call my brother at work, and he wasn't really allowed to talk during work, and then eventually he'd get my voicemail on his work phone and being like, the website's down, call a Rulio. And then we'd always find out that it's because his toddler was playing in the closet and unplug the server.
Oh
So
my goodness.
so anyway, but so your question, sorry, the question about products, what were you saying about that? Like
Yeah. So what was the
I had a
experience like launching on e-commerce? Where did you get that from? And it sounds like your brother.
yeah, so my brother, yeah, yeah. And but email marketing, that was really how we got the word out, was you would
Yeah.
send out an email. I think we sent one at the time. We sent an email out like once like every other month, because like back then, now we get emails every 10 seconds, but from a
Yeah.
brand. But back then it was like, 6 times a year or something, we'd send out an email.
Yeah, definitely. So yeah, well, at the point of scaling, at what point did you notice traction taking place for your personal line of products then? Not outside of the spa, but then the line of products. At what point did you realize that?
Yeah, what was really the game changer was I started going out to LA, and I
Mm,
had a handful of celebrity clients. And so that was really what moved the needle,
mm,
because, these celebrities, would post about it and talk about it. I mean, Twitter was really big back then. And, you know, yeah, so we'd get media, then the media would kind of pick it up and run with
mm.
stories. And, so yeah, having celebrity endorsements, and I never paid them. They were
Yeah.
just my clients, and they just
Wow.
loved the product, and they talked about it for free. So that's what really drove more online traffic.
Yeah, definitely. So out of curiosity, at what point was that with social media, especially? What were your clients posting on? You mentioned Twitter, and I know Facebook kind of came around
Yeah, yeah,
2008, roughly. So
yeah, yeah, yeah. So sorry, what's the question? Yeah, so it was both of those platforms.
got it.
Yeah,
Incredible.
yeah, yeah.
So yeah, referring back to then the blog, I feel like this has probably a tremendous impact on your products as well. As you mentioned before we started the call, 2 million visits per year. That's incredible.
Yeah.
What led you to starting that blog? Why? I'm sure SEO authority, but if you can
Yeah.
explain.
So not SEO authority, because I didn't know what that was. I
Yeah.
was just this esthetician that loved sharing my skincare knowledge, and I would just sit there and type articles for my website, and just put content. We had a tab on the website called skincare articles. And so I would, write one on 10 tips for summer skin or who knows what.
Mhm.
And so I was just pushing content out, not realizing that it was getting picked up
Mm.
by this thing called a search engine. And then I think in 2009, we switched over to WordPress platform, which we're still on to this day.
Yeah.
But now blogs were really taking off, but I still didn't have an SEO person. I just was like, I'm just going to keep writing skincare information. So there was no strategy behind it. I
Yeah.
just knew that, like in our emails, and that's the case to this day, that we want to lead with education,
Mm.
because it's about trust. I'm a trusted expert, right? I've been an esthetician for over 35 years. So I sell with trust. I sell
Yeah.
with my knowledge. And then people are like, oh, it sounds like she knows what she's talking about. I'll
Mm.
try her products. And
Definitely.
so for so many years, and it's sadly not the case anymore, but for so many years, we just every day it was like Christmas to our website, like just raining with traffic, all organic. We
Mm.
didn't pay a dime, no pay to play, no Google AdWords, pay per clicks, none of it.
Yeah.
And Google was just wonderful to us until one day about 4 years ago, they changed something in their algorithm, some new, I forgot what it was called, but
Mhm.
and then the music stopped playing, and it was like,
Yeah.
wait, where'd the traffic go? So now it's a little more pay to play now, but I had it
Definitely.
good for a long time.
Yeah. So I would like to hear, especially being something that's physical use for skincare and results based, what kind of marketing works the best for you guys for skincare, especially e-commerce? I can't test it. I need to maybe do a subscription for a month, see if it works. What,
Yeah.
how do you guys lead that?
So we have an in-house esthetician that does virtual skin consultations,
Mm,
and it's we call it My Skin RX. And so people can schedule a virtual, and we've been doing, like, during COVID, a lot of brands started to do virtual, but we've been doing virtual for easily 12 years. New York Times actually did a whole page on me about the skin
mhm.
coach and all this kind of thing. So that's been really instrumental for our success, to be able to kind of really have that one-on-one time with people. But
Yeah,
I think really what it is my blog, because
yeah.
I have, you can type, what do I, dark circles, blackheads, clogged pores. I mean, we have everything on there.
Hmm.
So that is a selling tool in itself, because I'll mention my products and links to it. I'm still, even if you don't buy the products, you're still learning. But
Exactly.
when someone's reading something and all my advice is right there, then they have the information right at their fingertips.
Exactly. Yeah, diving into then the possibility of brick and mortar, has that been an option as well? Or I know with the blog, it makes sense to funnel right to the e-commerce site. Has
Yeah.
that been in conversation through the years?
So I had two skincare spas in Dallas, and we
Yeah.
shut them down. I relocated my company to Austin 8 years ago, so our headquarters are here. We have
Hmm.
10,000 square feet of warehouse and office space here in Austin.
Incredible.
Got recognized in 2020 as the best place to work in Austin.
That's
Shout
huge.
out! And anyway, but we closed the spas in Dallas right before COVID. It just happened that our leases were running out anyway, so
Mm,
we kind of dodged a bullet there. But I was really wanting to put we'd already had the spas for 20 years, and it's just, it was time and energy taken away from the product line and being able to reach more people online.
yeah.
So for the past 3-ish years, we've been 100% D2C.
Mm,
And but now we're kind of exploring some IRL opportunities, whether it's
yeah.
pop-ups or more events or whatever. I always go back to, like, I became an esthetician because I like to touch people, and even though I
Yeah.
still have a couple of handful of clients out in LA that I see regularly, but, like, I just love talking to people and being with people, and it's a little less touchy feely online. So
Mm,
we are looking at some opportunities starting here to start here in Austin, about kind of getting back with the people again.
incredible. What does the new product development look like? So, say there's a new skin, something going on. What does a product development look like today? R&D. Since you guys already have an established line,
Yeah.
I'm not sure if you launch yearly, but what does that look like?
Yeah, no, that's it's our new product development is my favorite. That's what I probably
Yeah.
spend most of my time doing. So I have we work with contract manufacturers. We work with like 11 of them all over the United States and Canada.
Hmm.
And because different labs specialize in different things, and because my line has 52 products, we do diversify. So we don't do our own in-house manufacturing, and but I have a cosmetic chemist
Hmm.
that and an MPD team here in Austin, and then we then communicate with the labs and the chemists on their team. And but new product development is so fun. It comes from my 35 plus years of conversations, knowing
Mm,
what people's pain points are. So I'm monitoring, what do we have in the line? What are we missing? What's, coming down the pike? What are people talking about? But just truly, I'm not going to come out with a product just to have another SKU. It's
yeah.
because something's missing in my line. Or I might, I mean, we've been in business 27 years tomorrow.
Mhm.
I might go back to a current formula we have and add new bells and whistles to it, and then launch it as a new product. And so but it's a real art form for me. There's a
Yeah.
real designing a new product, like all the boxes that has to check to create a really memorable experience and a wonderful experience,
Yeah.
and then driving results at the same time. So
Mm,
it's truly an art form, but it's really, really fun.
I love it. So you mentioned you guys aren't manufacturing in-house, but you also referred to the square footage you have on site. I take it you are doing logistics in-house. Do they ship
Correct.
back to you guys and then you ship to the consumer?
Correct. Yes. Yeah. So we do all of our own pick, pack, ship, and distribution that way. And we love that
Yeah.
because, I always say, sent from Austin with love. And,
Yeah.
we have our whole warehouse team, and everybody, just loves working at our company. And So we're really just big on culture and, a lot of brands. I mean, technically, I'm just a sales and marketing company, so
Yeah.
I could easily outsource 3PL, but we have a 99% accuracy rate on our shipping. Our warehouse
Mm.
team just like does such a good job, and I'm just really proud that we don't outsource everything.
And yeah,
So
of course, out of curiosity, being in the industry for so long, what kind of in comparison to your competitors, what kind of marketing tactics have you seen that maybe skew consumers other routes that maybe might not be true of their skincare, that maybe consumers get tricked often? If you can share, maybe not you guys, but competitors.
so kind of like what's the BS out there, you mean?
Exactly. That, yeah,
Okay. Yeah. So I think there's a lot of false claims going
yeah.
on, right? So like think about like the clean movement, and that's kind of going by the wayside because people just don't have the data to back up like that these things are toxic or causing cancer. So
Mhm.
there's been a lot of backlash, and now the clean brands that really did well several years ago, they now they're struggling because they're trying to like, how do you kind of say, take a stand and say these ingredients are bad, but then the science continually proves and the research proves that it's
Mm.
not.
Yeah,
So they're kind of a little bit trying to, spin a little bit differently now. So that's been kind of interesting to watch. Trends like CBD, for example, like a
mm.
lot of brands were coming out with CBD lines, and it's like, and me being so far into the research, I'm just kind of rolling my eyes. And then sure enough, just last week I saw an article in one of the trades that like CBD is gone, like
Yeah,
that ship has sailed. Because but again, everyone's like, oh, it's so calming for your skin, because they kind of, that's the marketing story, right? Like when you
yeah.
smoke weed, a lot of people get calm, but it's like, no, it's not touching your face. Like I
Yeah,
mean it doesn't work that same way. So that is a little silly. I think brands, I mean, there's a dime a dozen now. You hear all
for
these
sure.
celebrities having brands, and I think at the end of the day, it's who really has the expertise
Hmm.
to really like know what they're talking about. Because the days of just a celebrity being the face of a brand is over. Like, so
Yeah.
celebrity brands are going by the wayside. So I think there has to always be that authenticity. So I sit in a really good place because I've had 35 years of literally being 2 inches from
Mm.
people's face, looking through their pores into their souls, and
Yeah,
having conversations all day long. Like, I've got some street cred, right?
for
And so
sure.
I think that, that's why a lot of like dermatologist backlines are doing well. There's a lot of cosmetic chemists that are having lines now.
Mm.
So I think at the end of the day, expertise and authority
Yeah,
is what's really making us win.
absolutely. Well, Renee, I like to conclude each episode with this. With 27 years anniversary celebrating tomorrow, I'm curious.
Yeah.
If you can share one piece of advice with an aspiring entrepreneur, maybe something you've learned or regret along the way, what would you say that would be?
I would have found, I would have seeked out mentorship
Mm.
instead of just trying to do it alone. Um, yeah, I would have done that. There's plenty of people out there that have done it, can do it with their eyes closed,
Mm.
and have insight. And I just always did everything myself. And I read a lot. I constantly research, keep myself educated. But sometimes if someone, just one conversation with someone, and I'm like, oh my God, why didn't I know that 10 years ago?
Yeah.
So I think mentorship, are you familiar with EO?
Yep.
Entrepreneurs Organization? So
Yep.
yeah, I've been in EO for almost 15 years. And so
Awesome.
obviously those are my mentors because we can learn from each other. So
Mhm.
I would just say, seek out advice, not, and always stay true to what's, you don't have to follow everyone's advice because you have to go with your gut, but
Mm.
just surrounding yourself with people to have those people as sounding boards, I think is really helpful.
Absolutely. Well, Renee, thank you so much for joining me today. And to the listeners out there, make sure to check out Renee Rouleau at reneerouleau.com.